Tonight, dozens of migrant families are facing uncertainty after being told they must leave their shelters by this coming Friday. The first round of eviction notices are part of the state's new strict rules on shelter stays for migrants. Boston 25's Drew Caritas is live outside the State House tonight, where the governor's office says notices went to families who have been in shelters the longest. Drew.
Kayla, a spokesperson here at the governor's office, tells us verbal and written eviction notices have been given to a total of 57 migrant families, and more are on the way. We've learned that nonprofit providers got on an urgent conference call this afternoon to share their concerns about an incoming wave of migrants who are now steering clear from the state's overflow shelters altogether because what will happen if they get into one? The first round of eviction notices have given dozens of migrant families until this coming Friday, August 9th, to exit the state's 4 overflow shelters, which the state is now calling temporary respite centers. Migrant stays are not only limited to 5 days from here on out, but the state now says families who stay in the temporary respite centers can't get placement in the emergency shelter system for at least 6 months.
They're not going into the respite centers because they know that they'll be ineligible for emergency assistance. We're going to see lots of people on the streets. That's what we're going to see.
We showed you these images last week of migrant families spending the night outside Boston Medical Center, something Jeffrey Thielman, executive director of the International Institute of New England, says is becoming increasingly common with each day.
Our position among a lot of the providers that have been talking today on a Sunday to try to figure out what to do here, it is not a good idea, not healthy to punish people by telling them if you stay in a respite center, you can't get into the emergency shelter system.
The state says some of the first families to receive eviction notices have already been reticketed, but isn't saying exactly how many, and also isn't telling us how many migrant families have accepted plane or bus tickets to leave Massachusetts in recent weeks.
They're not leaving Massachusetts from what I'm hearing. They're not. Maybe the state has different data. It'd be great to see that data, but I'm not seeing it.
Thielman says providers like himself are teaming up and scrambling to find temporary places for people to stay. A spokesperson with the governor's office tells us, quote, "This new policy will help open up space at temporary respite centers so that families have a place to stay temporarily while they work with case managers to identify alternative housing." That spokesperson went on to emphasize that Massachusetts is out of shelter space and can't continue to afford the size of the system. A recent report from the Center for Immigration Studies, a conservative group, projects Massachusetts will spend $1.8 billion over the next 2 years to manage a growing number of migrants coming to the state, not just for housing, also for things like schooling, social services, and medical care. We're live outside the State House. Drew Caritas for your local station, Boston 25 News.